So, topic of discussion. Can covenants with God be broken? First, I want to say that I do not claim to know everything. The more that I learn, the more I know that I do not know anything at all. But I will say on certain subjects, I feel that I'm close to getting it all the way right. I'll never claim to know something 100% right, because we know perfection is existed in one, and that's Christ. So I don't know everything, but I believe that I got a good grasp of this subject here. So the first thing that I want to highlight is that we can't understand what we can't define. And that's in reference to what a covenant is, and let's look at this, and also a divorce certificate. So let's define a covenant and a divorce certificate by God. His truth, I mean. So a covenant is a promise, okay? That, you're going to fulfill something, a certain duty. Now, a covenant with God, when he's involved, it's either to death, since he can't die, it's to death of those involved, or it's everlasting. All right. So God can't die. So in a covenant of marriage, it's till the death of one of the spouses. All right. Now, here's the thing. People believe that a divorce certificate breaks a covenant. All right. So let me define what a divorce certificate is and how it works. All right. It does not break a covenant. A divorce certificate is a document that declares the one who is issuing it is no longer wanting to fulfill the duties of the covenant. It acknowledges legally that they are leaving the covenant. You can't break a covenant that God is involved in. You can leave it. All right. It's no different than leaving your job for work. You're gone from the place, but the place is still standing. It's still there intact. That's how it is. You can't break a till death covenant without death. Okay. So now let's go back to this. A certificate of divorce, it doesn't break a till death covenant. Again, it's evidence of one leaving their role in the covenant. The covenant cannot be broken. Why? Because anything that God is a part of in a marriage he's a part of, first of all, the vows say till death. All right. But not even that. If the vows don't say that, by the one who designed and created marriage, he said that it is till death. He said no man can separate it. Okay. He hates divorce, so he never intended for man to remarry without death. All right. So the divorce certificate does not terminate or break the covenant. It just acknowledges that you're leaving. Okay. Let's compare it to a father signing his parental rights over. He is no longer obligated to fulfill the role of the father, but the fact remains he is that child's father. Okay. That's how covenants with God work. So here goes some scripture references. Let's go to Jeremiah 3:8. I gave faithless Israel her certificate of divorce and sent her away because of all of her adulteries. All right. He gave Israel a divorce certificate. Let's go to Jeremiah 3:14 though. Return faithless people, declares the Lord, for I am your husband. See that? He didn't say I'm your ex-husband. He still had the role of the husband. He just wasn't fulfilling the duties of the husband. He still called himself husband, even though he divorced Israel. Okay. And then he called her back. So we can see when God gave Israel the divorce certificate, he still called her husband, himself husband. He cannot break his position in a covenant, even when we transgress against him or our spouses. Okay. Don't confuse being able to divorce with being able to remarry. All right. So check this out. If God left a till death covenant and followed you to a new marriage without death of somebody in the first marriage, then we will be serving a false God, a liar, a God who said he can never break his covenant position, but he does for you. No. Let's look at these verses also to see that even in sin and transgression, God's position can't be moved. You can't move him. You can't move him. Nobody can. Let's go to Judges chapter 2, verse 1. And an angel of the Lord came up from Gilgal to Bochum and said, I made you to go up out of Egypt and have brought you into the land which I swear unto your fathers. And I said, I will never break my covenant with you. Let's look at another one. James 33, verse 20 and 21. Thus said the Lord, If you can break my covenant of the day and my covenant of the night, that there should be no day and night in their season, then may also my covenant be broken with David, my servant, that he should not have a son to reign upon his throne, and with the Levites to preach, my ministers. So we can see that no matter what we as mankind does, we can leave the covenant. God's position is intact. It remains. Him staying in it is not contingent on us staying in it. If it's a till death covenant, which marriage is, when you leave, God stands still. He doesn't move and go with you because you left. Okay? That's even in us sinning against him or our spouse. Or divorce, because divorce is a sin. It's a transgression against God. God has to honor his position in a three-way covenant to death, or else he is a liar. So you are not free to remarry with the spouse still alive and think that God is going to pack up his stuff and follow you to a new covenant like he served you. Stop that. He made it clear about covenants, yet we've manipulated it to fit our desires to believe if we divorce for specific reasons, then it cancels out God's duty and obligation to stay in a till death covenant. And that now he's going to follow us and jump into a new covenant. That's wrong. Now, the person in Matthew 19:9 who was allowed to divorce and remarry, guess what? That was someone who entered a maid and was married and then later found out that someone else beat him to the punch through the act of fornication. So therefore, in reality, he was never married to that person. Somebody else was already married by going inside the woman. So he basically married somebody else's spouse. God didn't honor that marriage. So Matthew 19:9 is to somebody who basically married someone who was previously married. God didn't honor in that marriage. So therefore, you are free to divorce and remarry. That's who that applies to, okay? We can eliminate the belief that it is adultery. Adultery is not the exception. All we got to do is look at the Greek text. It states, except it be porneia, which is Greek for sexual immorality or fornication. And marries another committeth machia, which is Greek for adultery. All right? Sexual immorality is an adultery. Otherwise, the Greek scripture would have said, except it be for machia, and marries another committeth machia. It said, except it be for porneia. Sexual immorality, fornication. Committeth machia, adultery. All right? Now, besides that, no matter why you divorce, which is a legal acknowledgement that you are leaving the covenant, not breaking it. Your covenant is intact. As long as God lives and as long as your ex lives. Only when one of you dies can God leave that covenant and go with you into another one. Regardless of the reason that you left, whatever sin that was committed, transgression, whatever, God can't lie and leave a covenant because you left it. Okay? Not without death. If you believe he honors a new covenant without death, you are either serving a false God or you're calling the one true living God a liar. It's as simple as that. That's how covenants work with God. It's a till death covenant. You leaving it by divorce doesn't break it. You're just leaving it. It's an acknowledgement that you no longer want to be a part of it. But that covenant, even with you leaving it, still is intact until one of you die. Or God dies, and God can't die. So that is the truth of God. That is a covenant from his POV, not what we've turned into to fit what we want to do. All right? I don't care what that person did to you and was the cause of your divorce. You can divorce, even though that's a sin, and God will forgive you. I don't care what the reason was. Remarriage without death is going to be adultery. God can't leave that marriage covenant because you left it and neither of you died, because it's a till death covenant, and God leaving that and following you without till death would be calling God a liar. We would need to throw the entire Bible away because he lied and he doesn't keep covenants. Do you understand what that belief is, how dangerous that is? And that is why many today are in error with these marriages to other people while their first spouse lives, believing that for this reason or that reason, they were free to remarry. until that spouse is dead, you're not. Because Yahweh is obligated to stay in a till death covenant till one of you dies, regardless of why you divorced. He can't move from that covenant until one of you dies.